On October 14th, 1066, two armies gathered on a misty Sussex hillside, their banners fluttering in the cold morning air. The fate of a kingdom hung in the balance as thousands of Norman invaders, led by William, Duke of Normandy, faced off against the determined Anglo-Saxon forces commanded by King Harold Godwinson. The tension was palpable, the stakes immense. This was not just a battle for land, but for the very soul of England. By sunset, the hillside was littered with the fallen. King Harold lay dead, struck down in the chaos, and with him, the Anglo-Saxon dynasty that had ruled England for centuries came to a sudden, violent end. The outcome of this single day would echo through history, marking the end of one era and the birth of another. England, as it had been known, was forever changed. The Battle of Hastings wasn't merely a contest for the crown, it was a seismic turning point that would shape the very foundations of Britain's language, its laws, and its national identity. The clash between Norman ambition and Anglo-Saxon tradition set in motion changes that would ripple through every layer of society, from the highest nobles to the humblest peasants. William, Duke of Normandy, was a formidable leader, ambitious, strategic, and relentless. Harold Godwinson, newly crowned and fiercely patriotic, was determined to defend his homeland. Their confrontation was to culminate with years of political intrigue, broken promises, and shifting alliances. The battle was brutal and unyielding, a true test of will and strength. The outcome of Hastings would do more than decide a king. It would pull England into the orbit of continental Europe, exposing it to new ideas, customs, and influences. The Norman victory brought with it a wave of change, as French culture, language, and governance began to blend with the old Anglo-Saxon ways, forever altering the course of English history. Before Hastings, England was a patchwork of Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, its people speaking Old English and living under ancient customs. After the conquest, a new French-speaking elite imposed their authority, building imposing stone castles to assert control and introducing new systems of government, law, and land ownership. The landscape itself began to change, as villages gave way to fortresses and the old order faded into memory. Every aspect of daily life was transformed. Land ownership was reorganized under the feudal system, justice was administered in new courts, and even the language of the people began to shift, as Norman French melded with Old English to create something entirely new. The words people spoke, the laws they followed, and the very structure of society were all reshaped by the Norman. The events of that single day in 1066 set England on a path of transformation and innovation. The legacy of Hastings can still be seen in the language, culture, and institutions of Britain today, a testament to how one day, one battle can redefine the destiny of an entire nation. At the heart of this epic struggle for the English throne stood two remarkable men, each shaped by their own unique backgrounds, ambitions, and the turbulent times in which they lived. Their rivalry would not only decide the fate of a kingdom, but also change the course of European history forever. On one side was William, Duke of Normandy, a formidable leader, born into a world of constant conflict and turmoil. On the other, Harold Godwinson, England's most powerful general, a man whose rise to power was marked by loyalty, cunning, and resilience. William was no stranger to adversity. Having survived assassination attempts and rebellions in his childhood, he had become a master strategist on and off the battlefield. His reputation for ruthlessness was matched only by his ability to inspire fierce loyalty among his followers. Harold's claim, by contrast, was straightforward and rooted in tradition. He was chosen by the English themselves, crowned in a grand ceremony at Westminster Abbey, and recognized by the leading nobles of the land. For many England, Harold was the rightful king, the center of their way of life. Their armies reflected the world they came from, living in one The seeds of the Battle of Hastings were sown long before swords ever clashed on English soil. In the shadowy corridors of power, a tangled web of promises, ambition, and shifting loyalties began to take shape. The fate of a kingdom would soon hang on the words and actions of a few powerful men, each driven by their own vision of destiny. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor, the pious and childless ruler of England, died after a long illness. His passing left the throne without a clear heir, plunging the realm into uncertainty. The English crown, a symbol of both power and divine favor, now sat in the throne, and the great families of England and the Empire each with their own ambitions and justifications. According to the and William believed it gave him a legitimate right to rule England. The story of this promise would become the foundation of William's claim, repeated in courts and on battlefields alike. The plot thickened, and Harold Godwinson was powerful, shipwrecked, while the Williams husband, Harold surrounded by his closest advisors and noblemen, he supposedly named Harold as his successor. Some say Edward's final words were a direct command, others claim it was a desperate attempt to keep the kingdom stable. Regardless, Harold seized the moment, and the question of legitimacy became a matter of perspective and power. The very next day, the English nobles moved quickly. In a grand ceremony at Westminster Abbey, they crowned Harold king, hoping to present a united front against any foreign challengers. The coronation was both a celebration and a warning. England would choose its own ruler. News of Harold's coronation reached Normandy swiftly. William saw this as a deep betrayal not only of his personal trust but of a sacred oath. Outraged, he began to make himself history. Harold's reign began under siege. He knew William's invasion was inevitable. All summer, Harold's army waited on the southern coast, but supplies dwindled and morale faded. Suddenly, a new threat emerged. His brother Hastings and Harold marched up to Norway, invading the north, capturing York. Forced to act, Harold disbanded the southern army and marched nearly 200 miles north in just days. Hastings was Bridge confronted him, stunning victory, marching against Hastings. But celebration was great. News arrived that William was landing on the south coast. Exhausted and threatened, Harold turned to the south. Two battles, and battles. The final confrontation was inevitable. Harold raced south, gathering fresh but untrained levies as he went. He took a defensive stand atop Senlac Hill, forming a formidable shield wall. William's army, a mix of archers, infantry, and cavalry, faced the other. The battle hung in the balance. As fatigue set in, a rumor spread that William was dead, causing panic among the Normans. William rallied his troops, turning retreat into strategy. His knights feigned flight, luring English soldiers from their stronghold. The trap snapped shut. Isolated English fighters were cut down, weakening the shield wall. William repeated the tactic, each time thinning the English ranks. He ordered archers to fire high, raining arrows onto the defenders behind the wall. As dusk fell, the English line, battered and exhausted, still held, until King Harold was struck down. European world. The Norman legacy shaped the very foundations of modern Britain. The Domesday Book, a vast survey of land and wealth, set a precedent for centralized government and taxation. Norman law fused with Anglo-Saxon customs, evolving into English common law. The King's Council became the ancestor of Parliament, paving the way for constitutional government. The English language became a rich blend of Germanic and French, reflected in everyday words and social distinctions. Norman architecture still dominates. These changes forged a new national identity and set England on a path toward the modern state. The Norman conquest impact endures in language, law, and the very fabric of British life. The Battle of Hastings was more than a fight for a crown. It was the day England's destiny changed forever. The Norman conquest severed old ties and anchored England in Europe, reshaping society from top to bottom. The feudal system, passed with a new language, created a centralized and powerful monarchy. The Domesday Book and legal reform set the stage for centuries of strong governance. The echoes of 1066 are everywhere: the language, the law, and the classics. One day's battle set in motion the creation of the New England. Its legacy still shapes Britain and the world today.